He arrived at a set of closed doors, beyond which lay his destination. He stood across the corridor and waited for somebody to enter or exit. 13 minutes and 35 seconds later, the doors opened and a human woman in a Starfleet uniform walked out. "Okay, bye," she said, looking back into the room. Out of habit, Taran'atar measured her at a glance. Medium height and weight for her species and gender, blonde hair, green eyes, the blue collar that designated her as working in the sciences. When she had cleared the way, he moved quickly, turning sidelong to steal through the closing doors. Once inside, Taran'atar peered to his right, then took 2 silent steps into an empty space along the bulkhead. The room was fairly large. 3 oval windows in the back wall looked out into space, the trio flanked on either side by a pair of wide, tall cabinets. The cabinet on the right stood closed, but the one on the left was open. Inside were several empty shelves, but others were filled with colorful artifacts that Taran'atar could not identify. A table sat in front of the leftmost window, with 2 long but much lower tables lining the left and right bulkheads. In the center of the room, mats and pillows and blankets were strewn about, and amid these meandered 19 small beings. Children, Taran'atar thought, grasping the concept if not the reality of what he saw. 2 other beings, fully formed males, stood near the window. All of the beings appeared to be either Bajoran or human, though 2 of the children may have been descended from both species. The children were even smaller than Taran'atar had anticipated. He found himself unable to even speculate about their ages. Had they been Jem'Hadar, he would have put them at just a few days old, but he knew that most humanoids developed far more slowly than that. It was a sign of weakness. Taran'atar stopped himself. "Withhold judgment," the Founder had told him. Taran'atar stood against the wall, watched, and listened. In an unsystematic, even chaotic manner, the children gathered up mats, blankets, and pillows and carried them over to the open cabinet. There they dumped their cargo into a pile. One of the adults, the human, the other was Bajoran, thanked them, picking up the material and placing it onto the empty shelves in the cabinet. Despite the lack of ceremony, the action seemed ritualistic to Taran'atar, though he could not fathom their meaning. After the children had completed their task, they returned to the center of the room where they sat down on the floor. Near the middle of the 3 windows, the adult Bajoran thanked the children for cleaning up, then asked them if they wanted to look at some animals. The children set up a clamor, some of their words indecipherable, but they identified the Bajoran man as Gavi. From the table by the window, Gavi picked up a group of placards, each 1/3 of a meter by 1/2 a meter in dimension. Then he crouched down, setting the placards on his thighs. "Okay," he said, "what animal is—" He raised the top placard and displayed it for the children. "This!" Taran'atar at once recognized the pictured beast, a brown-haired, 4-legged pack animal native to Bajor called a pilchick. The children all yelled their own responses, most of which were correct. Gavi said, "That's right, this is a pilchick," apparently ignoring the children who had called out the wrong answer or given no answer at all. "This animal lives on Bajor, and the people there use it to carry supplies and to tend their fields." Gavi's tone of voice and the manner in which he pronounced his words seemed very strange, almost as though he believed the children incapable of hearing or understanding him. Taran'atar wondered if these might be defective children. He knew that defective Jem'Hadar were occasionally bred. When that happened, they were simply destroyed. Gavi looked over at one of the children, a small human girl, and said, "Can you tell me the name of this animal, Claudia?" The girl, who had not properly identified the animal the first time, stared back at him without saying anything. "This is a—" He waited for the girl to say the name of the animal, but she said nothing. "Come on, Claudia. I know you can do it. This is a Pilchick!" The girl erupted, and all of the children cheered. Taran'atar watched as Gavi went through all of the placards, showing them to the children and then asking questions and talking about the animals on them. Taran'atar found himself fascinated by the process, despite, or perhaps because of, his lack of understanding about the purpose of the exercise. And Gavi even presented pictures of a few animals, including tranny cats and cotton-tailed jebrets, both supposedly native to Ferenginar, of which Taran'atar had absolutely no knowledge. After Gavi had shown all of the placards, he asked the children who among them wanted to draw. The group made loud noises in response, several of the children putting their arms into the air as though attempting to call attention to themselves. Gavi then asked what they should draw today, and again the children responded, although Taran'atar could not tell if all of the responses actually answered the question. Gavi held up his hands, palms out, and quieted the children by saying, "Wait, one at a time." Then he pointed to the child closest to him, a young girl who looked essentially human but with some vague Bajoran characteristics. "What would you like to draw today, Mire?" he asked her. "I want to draw the wormholes," she said. Gavi smiled at the girl, leaned in, and poked her in her midsection. "Okay, Mire, we can do that, but it's not called a wormhose." The girl laughed. At least, Taran'atar thought it was laughter, though it could have been some other sort of spasm. "It's not?" she said. "No," Gavi said. "No," Gavi told her. And then he addressed all the children. "Who knows what it's called?" he asked. A number of the children pushed their arms straight into the air again, and two of them yelled, "The wormhole!" "That's right," Gavi said, "the wormhole." He leaned back into the girl. "Can you say that, Mire? Can you say wormhole?" The girl looked at him, crossed her arms in front of her, and said very definitively, "Yes." "Well, okay," Gavi said, laughing. He stood up and said, "So let's draw." And the children stood up and headed for the little chairs around the tables at the sides of the room. Gavi joined the human man, and the two moved across the room to the other cabinet, from which they extracted large pieces of white paper and what appeared to be colorful drawing implements. Something bumped into Taran'atar's leg. He looked down just in time to see himself finish shimmering back into visibility. A human boy stood beside him, apparently having wandered while making his way to one of the tables. A sense of shock filled Taran'atar, even having been approached without realizing it. And for this boy, this human, to have penetrated his concentration and concealment, he felt humiliated. "Look at the alligator!" the boy said, staring up into Taran'atar's face. Unlike the Ferengi aboard Defiant, this being displayed no fear of him. He gazed up at Taran'atar with a smile, then raised his arms. "Up!" the boy said. The human man yelled, "Hey! Get away from him!" And Gavi gasped. Taran'atar looked up to see the two men glaring at him. Gavi walked slowly forward, his arms outstretched, palms out, as if trying somehow to ward off Taran'atar. "Don't do anything," he said, and Taran'atar wondered what he thought Taran'atar might do. "They're only children," he added. As Gavi neared, Taran'atar looked past him at the other man and saw an expression of fear and anger on his face. It occurred to him that perhaps these men had also encountered Jem'Hadar in the past, as the Ferengi had, and perhaps they had been wounded by them as well. The children, though, Taran'atar saw that most of the children were peering at him and smiling. Some looked surprised and some looked curious, but none of them appeared scared. Interesting, Taran'atar thought, though he was unsure of the import of what he had noticed. Gavi stopped 2 paces from Taran'atar. Still moving slowly, he bent down and reached out for the boy. His fingers closed around the sleeve of the boy's shirt, but the boy pulled his arm away, his eyes never leaving Taran'atar.